I'd like to thank Dr. Mahapatra for giving me this opportunity to speak on basically changes of hypertension in the eye. So I would go through some of the ocular manifestations commonly seen, the various diagnostic equipment we can use, the pathology of retinopathy, grading systems available, show you some images and indications for cross referrals, and a bit on what we should be doing in the coming future. So we are aware that hypertension can of course cause hypertensive retinopathy. However, it can also cause hypertensive choroidopathy, optic neuropathy. It's a risk factor for vascular occlusions in the eye, which may be venous or arterial. It can cause anterior ischemic optic neuropathy. Patients who are diabetic, they are at extremely higher risk of a faster and a higher risk of progression. Similarly, it has roles in age-related macular degeneration, glaucoma, and during surgery, we sometimes get suprachoroidal or expulsive hemorrhage, which can be seen more often in these patients. Direct ophthalmoscopy has been historically the most commonly used instrument by both physicians and ophthalmologists. We know it's inexpensive and easily accessible. Today, of course, as ophthalmologists, we use more of slit lamp based fundus examination lenses, which give us a more binocular and a stereoscopic view, and of course are used mainly by ophthalmologists. Traditionally, we also have fundus photography, which is very helpful for documentation, can do computerized analysis. However, the equipment is fairly expensive and is mostly available with retina specialists in ophthalmology subcategory. However, today we have several mobile camera based photography devices which have made the job fairly simple and inexpensive, and also provide fairly good quality of digital images which can be useful for documentation. Some of these patients may also require additional testing such as fluorescein angiography and optical coherence tomography tests to document or to sort of pick up certain changes which may be happening in the retinopathy. Traditionally, when you do direct ophthalmoscopy, we need to try and do it with a dilated pupil, try to look at the optic disc, and then try to look towards the periphery, come back to the disc and scan other quadrants. And the last, we normally try to look at the macula, the center point being called the fovea. However, with the onset of COVID, virtually most ophthalmologists have stopped doing direct ophthalmoscopy, and we rely more now on slit lamp based examination, which keeps us a little away from the patients. The retinal circulation is unique because it does not have a sympathetic nerve supply and depends more on autoregulation, and we have a blood retinal barrier. So when the blood pressure goes up, there is an immediate vasospasm which constricts the arterioles. However, if it is chronic, over a period of time, these changes become into sclerosis and thickening of the muscle wall. Eventually, the muscle endothelial intima breaks off and there is a leakage of fluid into the vessel wall, causing necrosis and obliteration of lumen. So once the arterioles or the small arterioles are blocked, there is ischemia in the retina, and this leads to further consequences and leakage of fluid. So in the acute phase, or when there is early changes, you might just see arterial changes in the form of diffuse narrowing. However, when there are sclerotic changes, because the artery veins are in a common sheath, we start seeing AV changes or the arteriovenous crossing changes. Because of thickening of the wall of the arteriole, we also start seeing copper or silver wiring. And when there is ischemia, we start exudative changes, which may be in the form of hard exudates, cotton wool spots, and in the malignant phase of hypertension, we see basically choroidal infarcts, and we may see disc edema. These patients, as I mentioned, are at risk of getting vascular occlusions in the eye, vitreous hemorrhage, and retinal detachment. The early classification of hypertensive retinopathy was given by Keith Wagner Barker and had 4 grades. The grade 1 was just arteriolar narrowing. The grade 2 had focal narrowing and AV crossing changes. The grade 3 had additional retinal hemorrhages, exudates, and cotton wool spots. And the grade 4 was papilledema. Because it's sometimes difficult to distinguish grade 1 and 2, it was simplified by Wong into 3 grades, the mild, moderate, and severe, where the mild grade basically indicates arteriolar changes and crossing changes. When you go to moderate, you start getting hemorrhages, cotton wool spots, hard exudates, and microaneurysms. And when you look at severe patients, of course, you get optic disc swelling. So this picture just shows you some of the common changes that we see, such as the disc, the vascular changes, and exudative changes. The very common question that comes to our mind is, should we be doing ophthalmoscopy or should we be doing photography for all patients or for patients who have hypertension? So this is a very common issue. So if you look at patients who have very mild forms of hypertensive retinopathy, we realize that the ophthalmoscopy is not very reliable. There can be subjective variability, and it does not provide us of any record of what the changes which are there. So it's not a very effective tool for picking up very mild changes. In contrast, a photography can give us objective evidence. It is highly reproducible, and it can help us to do a computerized analysis of the AV ratio, which can have a high sensitivity in picking up these mild changes. When you look at moderate retinopathy, where you have all these hemorrhages, exudates, and so on, the ophthalmoscope will definitely pick up most of these patients. However, the photography will have the additional advantage that serial photography can tell us what is happening over a period of time, whether the changes are improving or the changes are resolving, which we cannot document by any hand drawn diagram in our practice. Of course, with disc edema, the ophthalmoscope is unlikely to miss it. However, again, the photography can have advantages that you can pick up the extent of the disc edema and the changes in the disc appearance, which may occur over a period of time. So the photography definitely has a lot of advantages as compared to an ophthalmoscopy. And I think the mobile based or the simple camera devices that are now available probably need to be used more often, not only by ophthalmologists, but I'm aware that even physicians have invested in some of these devices, which can give a good documentation. So just to show you a few pictures of, so the normal AV ratio is about 2:3, which is 67 or 65%. So you can see in some of these pictures that the AV ratio is showing that significant arterial attenuation, thin arterioles as compared to veins. So you can see that when you're doing an ophthalmoscopy, a quick glance, you're likely sometimes not to pick up these changes, or you might have a sort of variability. However, when you document and take a picture, you can even have a software to measure the diameters and compare and give you the AV ratio, which will be much more accurate and sensitive and specific. A few pictures of moderate retinopathy, which I said one cannot miss. For example, hemorrhages, exudates, and soft exudates. Severe retinopathy, you would see disc edema. Again, to note here is that as the condition progresses, the disc may change picture, and patients with chronic disc edema might start showing disc pallor and optic atrophy. So these are again changes which can be very well documented if you have serial photography. Some of the other conditions that one may see in the eye in patients with hypertension, such as branch occlusions, branch retinal vein, and branch retinal artery occlusions. We can see the central retinal artery occlusion with the cherry red spot, central venous occlusions. We can see diabetic retinopathy, as I mentioned, can progress very rapidly, and these patients are at high risk of developing complications in the eye. And we can also get optic neuropathy in patients who have hypertension. We understand that the retinal arterioles are anatomically and physiologically similar to those in the cerebral and the coronary circulation. So probably the target organ damage may be reflected by the retinal vasculature. And therefore, when studies have shown that when patients have mild grades of retinopathy, we see a moderate or a modest increase in the risk of stroke, coronary artery disease, and cognitive loss, whereas patients with moderate grades of retinopathy have a much higher and a stronger correlation with these morbidities. Of course, patients who have severe retinopathy are at a high risk of mortality. As an ophthalmologist, whenever we see a patient who has retinopathy, we normally would write a note to the physician so that they can take appropriate action looking at his overall global management. As a physician, I think if you have a mild hypertension with the patient, however, complaining of vision loss, headaches, and diabetes, probably best to refer them, and patients with more severe forms of hypertension and nephropathy also need a referral for ophthalmology to evaluate them. We understand that retinopathy may be an indication for starting antihypertensive treatment. It's not routinely done by all the physicians. However, it's important to refer because these patients probably require more aggressive management in view of higher risk of target organ damage and death. And I think in future as ophthalmologists, probably we need to have more reliable and accurate ways of picking up mild hypertension changes in the very early phase. If we can take pictures and measure the arteriolar diameters, probably we can give much better feedback to the physician who can then probably decide what is the best management for that given patient. And I think as ophthalmologists, probably we need to be looking at this. I think it's an area of not much interest among ophthalmologists. I think we need to pay more attention to this. And I think I come to know about this probably more often, that we will now look at this for patients with hypertension. Thank you all.